Final call for boarding for the last remaining passengers.
Well, there's no getting away from it. The 1st of January is going to mean a big change for UK travellers. For the first time, we're not going to be part of this sort of EU travel club where tourists can go willy-nilly across borders in Europe. However, that doesn't mean that you're not going to be able to visit your favourite European destinations next year. There's no incentive for the UK or for the EU to introduce too many barriers to travel for tourists. So the likelihood is that you'll see some changes, but not dramatic changes to your journeys. In terms of going further afield and beyond the EU, well, I don't think very much is going to change for the here and now. If you needed a visa to go to somewhere like India, say, as we do at the moment, then you probably still will at the same time in 2021. However, other destinations will change the way they operate with the UK as things go by in the future. One of the interesting things about Europe, of course, is the Schengen area, which basically removes barriers within EU member states. Now, from our point of view, that means that getting to a particular EU destination is likely to be the same whichever destination you choose. And of course, once you're in, you're in. So you'll be able to cross borders as you like once you've come into the EU area. In terms of passports, if you've got a blue one of the new ones, you've got nothing to worry about. If you've got a maroon passport, then there are a couple of things you should check. One, that it's less than 10 years old, which I'm almost certain it will be, and two, that it's got 6 months validity left. The old era of being able to travel within the EU with just the validity of the time for travel on your passport has now gone. You do need 6 months there. There is an exception for Ireland. As part of the common travel area, which predates our membership of the EU, you can travel to Ireland without any further validity on your passport. Basically nothing in terms of travel to Ireland will change from the 1st of January. Right, when it comes to visas, get ready for some acronyms, because from 2022, the EU is hoping to introduce something called an ETIAS visa waiver, which is basically designed to make things easy for non-EU members to travel within the EU once a payment of a fee has happened. However, that's a little bit further away than you might expect, so just for now, there will be no visas for any of the EU countries that you want to visit, including the affiliated members like Norway, Liechtenstein and Iceland. And you'll be able to travel within those countries as a tourist for 90 days within a 180-day period. Now that might have some ramifications for any of you who own second homes in the EU, so that's something to look at. And then in terms of your rights, in terms of travelling to and fro, if you're travelling on a ferry from the UK to the EU, or a plane, or using the Eurotunnel, or the Eurostar, all those rights are now enshrined in UK law in terms of cancellation and delays. You're basically covered in the same way that you were. In terms of border control and passport control after Brexit, there will be some differences, particularly if we don't get a deal with the EU. At that point, you may well arrive and need to have your passport stamped, which is something we're not used to. You may also be asked to prove that you have enough money to stay for the duration of your visit, and that you have a return ticket back to the UK. You will also potentially have to line up in a different lane from other EU citizens and Swiss citizens and EEA citizens. However, at the moment, things aren't completely clear on this, so we're just going to have to wait and see how it all pans out. In terms of driving your car, you may need a few more documents now. You may need an international driver's license to do that. And if you're driving your own car, you'll need a green card, which shows that you're insured to travel in the EU, and also the big GB sticker on the back. No longer will the driving license that you have that little blue flag with the gold stars at the top corner. That's not going to be valid anymore. You are going to have to work a little bit harder in terms of a driver. Remember also that even now, there are different rules amongst member states. You do need to look up the place that you're going before you go there to make sure that you're absolutely tooled up as a driver. Now, pets is a big deal when we leave the EU. From the 1st of January, the old pet passport that entitled you to take Fido into the European Union is no longer going to be valid. Now, there's a fantastic page on gov.uk, the government website, which is directed particularly at people who want to travel with their dog, cat, or ferret. And those of you who wish to do that and travel with your pet ferret are going to be needing to look at least 4 months in advance in terms of getting their animal across borders. And that is going to include visiting your vet, it's going to include getting a health certificate, and it's going to include getting your animal microchipped. It is going to be far more complicated to travel with an animal after we leave the EU. The most important thing that's going to happen in terms of healthcare when we leave the EU is that the EHIC card is no longer going to be valid. Now, the EHIT card was a way of getting reciprocal healthcare in whichever European country you visited, and most importantly, it offered cover for pre-existing medical conditions. Now, lots of travel insurance don't offer pre-existing cover, and many people relied when they travelled across the EU on the EHIT card in order to be able to do that safely and happily. So you are going to have to be incredibly careful if you have a pre-existing condition that you make sure your travel insurance provider covers that condition. In terms of mobile phones, in the past couple of years, we've all got quite used to the idea of being able to travel around the EU without incurring roaming charges. Now, that is likely to come to an end on the 1st of January. However, we're already seeing some mobile phone companies offering free roaming as an incentive effectively to stay with them. And certainly in the future, you should definitely check whether your provider is going to be offering that. Before you travel, the best thing to say at the moment is make sure you know what those roaming charges are likely to be, make sure you're prepared to pay them, and make sure that you're not going to get hit by an enormous bill when you come back. If the UK and the EU do strike a trade deal, then things may change. We may get better clarity on mobile phone roaming, we may get better clarity on how pets can travel, we may get better clarity on health insurance as we travel. There are also unresolved issues, of course, in terms of aviation. There hasn't yet been a formal agreement about planes flying to and from the EU and the UK, although one really must assume that that's the sort of thing that has to be ironed out well before we exit the EU. Duty-free, of course, everyone wants to know about this. From the 1st of January, there's a separate thing happening with the UK where they're going to stop offering duty-free on everything apart from tobacco and alcohol to wherever you go in the world. There will also be, at the same time, limits, of course, placed on coming back from the EU in order to normalise relations between the EU and the rest of the world as far as the UK is concerned. So, sadly, the end of the booze cruise is imminent. We will no longer be popping over to Calais to fill your boot with cheap wine. Although, as a sort of sop to that, the allowances will be much, much higher than they used to be pre-EU and the normalisation of duty-free.